and Robbo.
Streaming across the globe, Ben Norris, Rob McKnight, and David Robinson.
Ben, Rob and Robbo. News, reviews, entertainment news. It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.
Welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Here's Rob McKnight.
Still can't hear Rob.
Oh,
there we go.
No,
It was very cute, though.
Can I just say, never have I been so glad to have an audio mic off. I was actually calling up something on my internet, and I started singing to open the show. Bad idea. Bad idea.
What was the song?
I said, okay, it's Thursday, la da da da. That's literally what
Make it stop. Make it stop. My ears are bleeding.
Robbo and Ben, how are we on this terrific Thursday?
I'm really good. You know, it's Tipsy Thursday. I always love a Tipsy Thursday. I also have to say very quickly, I love Benjamin's shirt there, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What a great cartoon. Who was your favourite turtle there, Ben?
It was always Leonardo because he was like the leader of the gang. And that's really strange because I've never been the leader of any gang.
Well, we should actually open this up. You should tell us on our Ben, Rob and Robbo socials which turtle was your favourite. Let us know. Rob, your favourite turtle?
Leonardo.
What?
I don't know. I just know that one was Leonardo. I have watched the movie.
Okay.
I was just going to say...
I knew you wouldn't know the cartoon. I knew it.
Sorry?
Knew it. You don't know the cartoon, do you?
No, I do know the cartoon. I just didn't follow the adventures of four Ninja Turtles that closely. But I'm more concerned with it's Tipsy Thursday and all I've got is a glass of water.
That's never been water. We know that.
Amanda just said after we get to the topics after that, she's going to give me some and then a drink. So.
Oh, TMI. TMI.
All right. A lot coming up. Joel Creasy's joining us live. We'll chat with the eliminated contestant from MasterChef, and Joe Casamento will join us to talk about what's happening in the world of movies. And surprisingly, there's still a lot happening. Meanwhile, let's get into our hot topics. And the Queensland government has officially announced their intention to buy a stake in the collapsed airline Virgin Australia. Project Maroon is being handled by state-owned Queensland Investment Corporation and could be anything from direct equity, a loan, or financial incentives. But it's also caused a war of words between Federal Minister Peter Dutton and Queensland Treasurer Cameron Dick. Mr Dutton tweeted this last night. Premier Palaszczuk has almost bankrupted Queensland, and now in the middle of a crisis they want to buy an airline? It's laughable. She leads a government which is corrupt and chaotic. Mr Dick replied with, look mate, just stick to cruise ships. The Treasurer went on to say that he would do what was the best to keep Queenslanders in jobs. My God, Robbo, we're talking today about politicians and the way they act with each other. Does Mr. Dutton have a leg to stand on?
No, you can say his maiden name, which is Mr. Potato Head. I think he still answers
no,
that
come on,
to the same
no,
thing.
you do that, you're just as bad as the politicians we've been having a go at.
Okay, I'm okay with that, though, because I don't think the politicians are people that we need to hold in high esteem. This is the problem. He's saying things like chaotic and corrupt government. This is coming from a member of the Morrison government, and we know that there is a lot of alleged corruption there that we still haven't got answers for. Example, sports rorts. I only need to say that. There are plenty more, especially pay for visas is also a big thing where Mr. Morrison gave the tenure to outsourcing visas to a mate of the government to implement ICAO. You've got nothing to worry about. So why don't you just do that? We've seen a lot of politicians come down, especially in the New South Wales ICAC, and I think that's very important, and I think that's probably what they're scared of. He should stick to cruise ships. This is the thing. I know that this is kind of a fundamental argument in the way of he has always said he'd stop the boats. I know it's a different kind of boat, but ideally ideologically, I think is the word there. He failed to stop the boat that has caused the most damage in the past 20 years. I really think he needs to shut up. The biggest thing here about Queensland, I'm going to rant about this, sorry, for a little bit longer. The biggest thing about Queensland is they realise that they really need a second commercial airline. They've got to open up the West. There is a lot of mining, whether you agree with it or not, is happening out there that you need to be able to get out there. I think it really does make sense for Queensland to come along and say that we'll buy a stake in it. They were the only state government who put up that amount of money. The other governments were talking about it, but they were talking about putting up $200 million before it fell into administration. This is an important thing for the people. I really do believe this because it will help everyone, not only Queenslanders, but everyone around Australia.
Well, look, you've had about 64 thoughts in there, but let me just go back to the let me just go back to the one that we're talking about, which is specifically about Queensland buying this airline. And what I want to know, Robbo, is what business is it of Peter Dutton's if Queensland decides to do this?
Oh, well, it's no business of his at all. And he's the person, well, not directly, but he was part of the Morrison government who said, we're not going to bail out an airline that employs 16,000 people across the country. We're also going to allow this airline to go into admission, and we're going to return to the times of just a monopolist, which is really bad news. It's less routes and far more money. What did I say?
Oh, I thought you said a monontus, like a monopoly of Qantas. I thought it was very clever.
No, I think it was his audio's failed, and then he was frozen.
Yes.
That was the only way we could get him to stop talking.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm...
I think
everyone are frozen now.
I actually, Ben, thought he said a monontus, meaning Qantas monopoly, and I thought it was very, very clever. I've got to say...
He is very smart, but I don't think you can give him that much credit.
All right, fair enough. Now, Ben, I think Robbo has gone a little off-hinged on this topic, but we have a situation... where the Queensland government is trying to do something it said it would do. I still don't get where Dutton is coming from. And the accusations, there have been some problems in the government, but there's been problems in every government. Is this just petty politics? Is this just crap?
Yeah, Dutton's a glutton for punishment. He's ridiculous when it comes to his Twitter. Did he drink the cooking wine last night after he had his dinner? Because I swear to God, well, actually, did all politicians drink the cooking wine yesterday before they got their Twitter accounts out? As far as I'm concerned, it's such a strange medium. I know Donald Trump is into it, and Donald Trump is tweeting every single brain thought that he had, but it seems as though he set the tone for Australian politicians, and now all of them are saying these outrageous things with no facts to back them up. I reckon that from now on, when Dutton says something which is a grandiose statement, he needs to include some links into some more information about, backing him up. Because so far, it just seems like a slinging match, which is really unnecessary.
And we will have more on this because I want to cover Tim Smith. He's gone la cray cray overnight, but I want to move on to this story.
Oh, sorry. If you say that, Rob, if you say that, you're just as bad as the politicians that we're having a go at.
Now, boys. Now, boys.
I don't want to quote what you said only 2 minutes ago there, but if you're calling him cray-cray...
I did. There's a difference. I did not attack his physical appearance. I attacked what he's saying.
His mental health. Oh, so that's okay too, isn't it?
Yeah, you can totally have a go at mental health. That's not off limits, is it? Surely I'm not going to get backlash over that.
Good luck, boys. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. I'll be back.
I think I will too. All right.
Well, coming up, we've lost 2 hosts of the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show, but we will be looking for more. We can't wait to see what else we can find.
All right. I've got to say, I think you guys have taken Tipsy Thursday too far. The program has become unhinged in the first 9 minutes. But let's move on. And the federal government is hoping it's second time lucky for new border security legislation to pass in the House. The Morrison government is wanting to give Border Force officers some of the same powers as police. Currently, Border Force do not have the rights to search or confiscate contraband. The coalition government last tried to get this up in 2018 and are hopeful it will get through this time. Ben, is there anything to worry about here?
Well, at the end of the day, the reason why we're discussing this is because there is more and more concerns amongst drugs growing and being distributed amongst these people. And that's why we're expected to maybe have a little bit more harsher restrictions. And yes, I don't see any problems with maybe checking in on these younger people and making sure that they're doing the right thing. You know, with most parents that have got kids, when they get mobile phones, they have passwords to their kids' phones, and they can log in and make sure that their kids are doing the right thing. And I think the police is kind of like the same thing. I think the police should be able to investigate a little bit further if it turns out
yes,
that that's where the drugs are coming from.
The police can, but Border Force are not the police. Robbo, isn't this a step too far?
Yes, of course it is. If we don't let 14-year-olds drive, we don't let them buy drinks, we don't let them, they can't consent to sex, because the mental capacity for all of those things is far below them at that 14-year-old age. But we're going to allow our secret spy organisation, ASIO, to pull them in and question them, and they can interrogate them as harshly as they want. This is outrageous. The other thing is, as part of the amendments to this bill, is that they can push out the lawyers if they feel that they are impeding on the questioning or the investigation. Now, it's a very broad state of terms there. So literally, if one of the lawyers for the 14-year-old kid goes, "Oh, I think you're being a bit harsh, mate. Out, you're impeding the investigation." This is disgusting. It's not about parents putting it's not about parents putting a password on a mobile phone. This is interrogating 14-year-olds without the parents, potentially without lawyers. This is outrageous.
Yeah, and look, let's just be clear about that. What you're talking about, because among the amendments are the ability to question 14-year-olds, refuse the request for lawyers, and be present and track people without the need of a warrant. And we're talking about in detention centres the ability to just take phones off people if they suspect them of doing illegal activity. Ben, don't you find this a real worry?
No, I really don't. Look, I think if the suspicion is there and they're trying to do the best to keep drugs down in the country and keep people safe, then maybe we have to, resort to a little bit more drastic measures. I don't know, maybe because I don't have children. Maybe because I don't.
No.
Go on, Robert.
I'm just saying to you,
come at me, boys.
There is so much due course that is being eliminated with this bill, where you have to have a reasonable reason to talk to someone. That's being done away with. You can't have a lawyer in the room. That's being done away with. You can track people without a warrant. That's being done away with. We're going to a totalitarian state.
Absolutely.
If a 14-year-old, I'll put this to you, Rob, actually, for the moment. You've got a daughter who is close to 14. Obviously, you'll be happy with her being taken out to a car by ASIO officers. You can't
Absolutely
go with her.
Not.
The family's lawyers can't go with her.
No.
But, they have a suspicion that she might have known something about drugs. Outrageous. You wouldn't, surely.
Absolutely outrageous. And here's the thing. We start to think it's okay if it's just the minority of society, like people in detention. But when it starts hitting our kids, that's when people might start to get fearful. And this is where we're heading. We need to limit the powers. I'm all for due course. I'm all for laws that make sense. But when you just target someone on suspicion and they lose rights, that's when we come into problems. Ben, what if ASIO could just take your phone because they suspected you might be up to no good? Everything in that phone.
Wouldn't care. What are they going to see? They're going to see some really boring text messages between my partner and I, me setting up, a Zoom chat with my family. Maybe I might message a friend of mine and be like, "Oh, I can't wait for ISO to finish so we can get absolutely wasted." But there's nothing in my phone that I would be worried about anyone seeing.
What about
my
invasion
password?
of privacy? The invasion of privacy. They take your phone off you. They walk up to you and they take your iPhone and say, "We're taking this." You think that's okay?
Yeah,
But Ben, people come back to this argument. Well, if you've got nothing to hide, it's not a problem. What a crock of poo. The fact is that I don't want what's in my phone to become the knowledge of the police because I have a right to privacy. That doesn't mean there's anything in my phone of any interest to anyone, except maybe the network.
So what's your problem?
Wanting to find out my sources. But, the fact is that my problem is I am entitled as a free citizen to a right to privacy. Unless I can be proven to have done something wrong, I am entitled to that right. I am a citizen of this country in a free democratic society. You don't have the right to just take from me because you suspect me of something. We have courts. You have to prove it. You have to get a warrant. You have to do the right things, not just walk up to me and say, you look suspicious, give me your phone. Absolutely outrageous. Our freedoms are being taken bit by bit, and we're at the thin edge of the wedge.
Man, I don't know. The more and more you guys talk about it, the more I'm just like, I don't see where you guys are coming from. But I know that I'm in the minority in this regard. I've had this sort of discussion with family members before. I'm an open book. I don't care if the police thought I was suspicious. They can come up to me and they can go through my bag. They can go through my house. The worst thing I do is probably download torrents on the internet to watch Big Little Lies.
If they want me to get the Jews out of the attic and take them into camps, I'll do that because that's what the government wants me to do.
Well, you might think that I'm just some sort of lapdog because I do what the government asks me to do, but I actually read the policies and make sure the people that I'm trying to elect in this country are doing the right thing by me. I'm not suspicious like everybody else that they're paranoid that the government's out to get them. I don't think the government's out to get me. Maybe I'm naive by saying that. Feel free to come at me on social media like you did yesterday, people, but that is my thoughts.
Which you are here to give your thoughts, and I respect them, and we are all genuinely friends. And there are times I agree with you, Ben. There are times I agree with Robbo, and there's times where I think you're both morons. But, but I love you both very much. Anyway, let's move on. An outspoken Victoria Liberal MP, Tim Smith, he's at it again. What many believe to be nasty and personal attacks on Dan Andrews. Last night, he sent out this tweet calling Mr. Andrews, among other things, a control freak, a dictator, a friendless loser, and a lurch. People have largely condemned the comments. Tim Smith appeared on the 7 Network's Weekend Sunrise over the weekend about previous comments he made, where Monique Wright confronted him about his attacks.
The only people that can't visit their mothers today on Mother's Day across Australia are criminals locked in jail and the good people of Victoria. Why? Because Chairman Dan, the Premier of Victoria, is obsessed about telling people how to live their lives. Frankly, the power has gone to his head and he's acting like a loony.
And Tim, you've got a very valid point there. I guess it's just a bit disappointing to hear this now become something about politics. Is it necessary to then call the Premier things like Chairman down, say that the Chief Health Officer is the Premier's puppet? Isn't there a way of making your point without doing name calling?
Well, unfortunately, the way that the media works and the way that politics works is you sometimes have to make a point in a very strong fashion.
Well, look, on that point, he might have a point because we're talking about, in fact, I tweeted him this morning saying this might get you brownie points within the party, but the electorate isn't interested and they don't want it from any side of politics. Labor, Liberal, we just don't want it. Robbo, I've got...
The man is an attention seeker. Like,
he is,
I
and
can't
look,
understand
we're
this.
giving him the attention, but he went on Neil Mitchell this morning and apparently the opposition leader in Victoria had asked him to tone it down. He's saying that, nope, I'm free to do what I want and no one's calling me out on it. Do we want this kind of politics at this point, Robbo?
Look, I really don't think we do, and I think Monique Wright pulled up a wonderful point there, is that surely you can get your points across without, going down to schoolyard bullying and schoolyard name calls, sorry. I just don't get what this point is. What I think is I would doubt that he's going to be on the opposition leader's list this year. What I would like to see is policy backed up by the name calling. So if you want to do the name calling, that's fine. But let's see some really clear policy behind it. Victoria is still registering, even today, more COVID-19 cases. So I think Dan Andrews will probably be in the right there, considering that, his state is still being infected. The other thing is with this guy, even Neil Mitchell, who has been a supporter in the past, have said today that he went too far in this tweet. But Rob, obviously you thought that as well with yours. Is there a way, do you think, that a politician can get his point across without having to say, "Oh, Rob, you're a bloody idiot"?
Absolutely.
And you should, get...
The thing is, here's the thing. I think Australia's leaders have done a wonderful job. These are trying circumstances, and it has been compared to wartime, being a prime minister and being a leader in wartime. I don't think Labor, Liberal, I think they've all done a great job. I think Scott Morrison has done a great job. I think Pelagier, I think Gladys Berejiklian, I think Dan Andrews have all done wonderful jobs. And I think the thing is, what if Dan Andrews takes your advice, Tim Smith, and more people die? Will you take responsibility for those deaths? No, you just want to have a pissant argument in the backyard and snipe away when the real politicians, the real leaders are making decisions and actually thinking about the consequences of those decisions, not just trying to score cheap political points. You are a disgrace and you do not deserve to be in Parliament, and I hope the people of Kew vote you out at the next election like the piece of trash you are. Ben, what would you like to say?
Daddy's very angry. I would like to say, while I gather my thoughts, when I saw the clip of him on the news over the weekend, I was like, oh, wow, they're starting to show Saturday Night Live in Australia, because I thought it was a comedy. I was like, I thought it was them like a sketch comedy like Fast Forward or The Comedy Company. I mean, it just was so ridiculous.
It is.
And then, but he has like 4,000 followers on Twitter, and these tweets that he's putting out there is to try and grab our attention. And this is the sad thing about politicians these days, is that they think to get our attention, they have to act like children. But when you act like a child and you back it up with a valid point, we forget the point. But this is the thing. We as a society and the media in Australia, we give these people a platform as soon as they behave badly. I interviewed Pauline Hanson once, and she came into the radio station and she was lovely. We had such a lovely chat. And then she went on air and she said the most outrageous things I've ever heard. And then when she left, she was so nice again, and I was bamboozled. And so I followed her out of the studio and I said, I don't understand what you're talking about. And she said, sometimes you've got to make a lot of noise unnecessarily to get your point across. And I just looked at her like, lady, you have burnt your fish and chips with me. Like, what is going on?
All right.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
I think we've all had our rant. Robbo, you've had a rant. I've had a rant. Ben, you're due for a rant. Let's see if this one gets you. If you still watch broadcast television, and why would you when you know there's Ticker TV and our streaming services, you'd know that there's pretty much only a few people the networks take off the shelves to use in programming. Well, the Daily Telegraph reports that networks do it to save on costs and are risk-adverse strategy. If they work, why change it? So what we're talking about here, Ben, are the same faces coming up again. And I think you can think of Osher Ginsburg straight away, who hosts The Bachelor, Bachelor in Paradise, The Bachelorette. He voices Bondi Rescue. He filled in for Anthony LaPaglia on Survivor. So there's people like him, Amanda Keller, Grant Daniels of the world, who the networks only seem to use the same people. Do you understand why they do it when they want to make sure the audience will connect with these hosts rather than try new talent?
Because they're terrified. They're terrified to try something new. I don't understand it personally. Like, if you ask me, like Bev from Channel 10, God, love her. She does a great job, but she never wants to pick anyone that's ever been on a whole list of shows that she has chosen to be shows she doesn't want. Like, I think Tim Dormer would be an amazing person on I'm a Celebrity. I think that Reggie Bird would be an amazing person on I'm a Celebrity, but Bev won't pick them because she doesn't like Big Brother. And so everyone has their people that they want to use. And it's not that surprising when you think about how we were brought up in sport. And that is that when you get to pick your people, the popular people always picked the popular people and the dregs were always left last man standing. And it didn't necessarily mean that that one person was better at the job than the other. So I don't know. I think that it needs to be looked at a little bit clearer. And also, I think we've got Joel Creasy on the show today, but I like what Joel Creasy and Julia Morris have done. And that is that they are so talented. Their talent is so great that all of the networks are playing them across all the different platforms. Yes. And that's where we should be going with television these days. We should be exploring that. And having Joel Creasy, who is a gay man on television, who's extremely good at what he does, is a really good thing for diversity. And we need to go down that path. We need to open up the diversity instead of seeing the same white faces across our television.
Just quickly, Robbo, Ben makes a lot of good points, but you can understand why executives like to use the people they know and trust. You know, look at what we do here. I'm working with two people that I know and trust, and I brought them in. We're about to cross to Joe Casamento, who I've worked with, who I trust. We get a lot of people on this show who we've worked with and who we trust. You could say we're guilty of the exact same thing.
Yeah, you could say, but we're at the forefront of something happening here. I always use this analogy of all of the networks are on a big kind of veranda, and there's a big dust storm called the internet and streaming. And it kept coming for years and coming for years, and they were arrogant about going, no, we don't have to worry about it. It's now hit, and they're being too risk averse. So what they need to do is actually take those chances. Some of the programming, especially, and I've got to say, is woeful, and how it's programming and how the bosses to get on air is outrageous. But they're still using the same kind of people. I think there needs to be more risk taken if you're ever going to challenge or compete with streaming services and other media opportunities.
Fair enough. All right. Thank you for that, gentlemen. It's been a very fiery, hot topic segment. I think we need to take a breather. I'm going to go and get a wine. And let's cross over to the Ticker newsroom and get the very latest news headlines from Aaron Young. Hello, Aaron.
Hello, great to be with you all, and I haven't brought a cheesecake today. I think we added it all up yesterday, didn't we? Let's move on to the news headlines for today. A dark day for Aussie employment. The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, declaring almost 600,000 jobs have been lost at a press conference today in Canberra. Not the jobs lost at the press conference, but that's where it was announced. According to new figures from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, the Treasurer has also confirmed 1.6 million Australians are now on JobSeeker, while 6 million people are now on JobKeeper. It is going to be a very long time until we fly overseas again. An international travel boss says it won't be until 2023 before we can go on holidays abroad. The chief executive of the International Air Transport Association, who isn't just anyone, I might add, that is a group that represents many airlines around the world, warning only 50% of air travel will return by the end of the year. The World Health Organization has warned coronavirus may never go away, instead becoming an endemic in global communities. The WHO's emergencies expert is Mike Ryan. He says in an online briefing it's useless to predict when the disease would disappear, and for governments need to now consider instead concentrating on trying to control it. Uber will require drivers, delivery workers and riders right around the world to wear a mask as countries begin easing restrictions. Starting on Monday, the company will require everyone using its ride-hailing service to wear some sort of face covering and ask passengers to sit in the back seat. And our Twitter poll today, should the Queensland government be buying Virgin Australia in an attempt to save local jobs? So far, 24% say yes, 76% right now say no. Let's take a look at the local weather now. Melbourne, a sunny top of 15 degrees and no rain on the forecast for a while. Sydney, 16 degrees, Brisbane, cloudy and 25 degrees. Fine for Perth and also overcast and 16 for Adelaide. Let's check the local market now. Not great news for the ASX straight out of the gate. She fell. Just as we saw overseas, the jobless rate also falling short of 8.2% forecast. Participation rate plunging to a 16-year low. And the Commonwealth Bank hammered, started overseas with the Dow overnight as we started to hear news that in fact the recession would last a lot longer than had first been planned. And now the news keeps getting worse and the markets are not in a good mood at all. That's Ticket, you're up to date. Now back to these handsome gentlemen.
Thank you, Aaron. I forgot about Tipsy Thursday, and people are calling me out on Twitter. They like Tipsy Thursday. They want Tipsy Thursday.
Can I get the case of wine, please? Quick. We always keep it in the newsroom, so I didn't know you were going to suggest this. But at 2 p.m, would you believe, Alana and I are going to be interviewing the founders of a company, and they've sent us some wine to start with. So we're going to be sitting here downing this at 2 p.m. So we don't have Tipsy Thursday, it's just Tipsy 2 p.m. for us, and then we go on to 3 p.m.
All right, so the people watching the Ben Robbo Show can hang in for Ticker and really get blotto on Tipsy Thursday.
Here we go. This is Mike. Mike, thank you. Yes, the glasses have arrived, and here we go. So if you want to join us, if there's anything left, go for it. Yes.
Aaron, you snap your fingers.
Yes.
People come from the background. You said I need some wine, and I saw all of Ticket get up and start
for the first
searching.
time. For the first time since I left Sky News today, I didn't have to write anything. It was incredible. We have staff now. We have people. I just had someone bring me wine at the news desk.
I love
Living
it.
the
All
dream.
right. Well, don't do what I did last Thursday and just keep drinking. We'll just take it slowly, all right? It's
Why?
Tipsy
I don't have to
Thursday.
be on air until Monday. It's perfect.
Fair enough. That's true. All right, Aaron, thank you very much. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, girls.
All right, it's time to talk movies with our dear friend Joe Casamento. Joe, hello, my darling. Am I allowed to say that? I just realised I may not be able to say that.
As long as you turn her sound on, we'll be fine.
Where's Joe's sound?
I don't know
Joe,
who you
Joe,
are.
we've got no sound from you. It's not me. You've given us no sound.
Oh, no. To be honest, though, she's very good to look at.
I tell you what, we do have the MasterChef contestant standing by. So, Robbo, we might cross over to you and chat MasterChef.
Yes, we will, Rob. Look, it was Twist Week this week on MasterChef Australia, and it was a little bit too much for Amina, who did succumb to that pressure test, but she's here with us right now. It's great to have her here on the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Amina, how was it to get back last night?
All of your dishes had significant problems. But one dish had just too many. That dish was yours. Amina. Sorry, Amina.
It's okay.
Ooh, and what is the kitchen's loss is our gain here on the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Amina joins us now. Amina, thank you so much for making time for us here this afternoon. I've got to ask you, what was it like to watch it play out?
Hello. Well, thank you for having me to start off with. It was pretty emotional and yeah, a bit gut wrenching to watch it, to be honest. There was a lot of emotions, a lot of anxiety during that episode, and it just felt like it was all coming back while watching it.
I could imagine it. It was so much pressure. I mean, that's why they call it a pressure test. But even I was breaking into a sweat as I was watching it. I've got to ask you, when you go into these challenge episodes, are you trying to guess what that twist might be?
Look, any challenge that we walk into, we always try and, sort of anticipate or, have these guessing games as to what it could potentially be. But obviously with Twist Week, there was no way of knowing what the twist would be, although we did speculate that it could have been a potential that they would remove our recipes.
Yeah, well, okay, so that's quite good then. So they did remove that recipe. It was a 7-page, very complex recipe. You decided to go with the meringue first before the passion fruit curd. If you had your time again, would you have swapped them over?
Look, I honestly didn't think that it made such a big impact in terms of how I finished or whatever. I mean, I had a flaw in every dish regardless, unfortunately. But, I was able to at least get those layers that were required to be, set in the deep freezer or in the blast chiller. So I was able to still achieve those. But obviously, maybe I should have gone by the recipe direction rather than change it around. Who knows? I hate desserts. I hate making desserts.
Well, the thing we've got to remember is that you didn't have the recipe there, so that's okay. You can have a few points for that. Will you ever cook or eat pavlova again?
It'll take me many, many years before I have another meringue or pavlova.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, fair enough. Fair enough too. Fair enough. Now, obviously, we love you as being the cool, calm, collected contestant in the MasterChef kitchen. But obviously, last night, as we've been talking about, that pressure got a little bit too much. But a good friend Jess came over, and it was a really nice moment. Let's have a look at that.
Amina, do you need a hand with anything?
Later, hon. Later.
You need the mango mousse recipe?
Have you got it?
It's 400 grams cream. You take half a cup, put it in the fridge, and then there's about 250 grams of mango puree.
Yep.
And then there was 70 grams sugar.
Yep.
And then 45 grams of egg yolk.
Okay.
I mean, that was a really nice moment to share with contestants. Are you all close in the kitchen?
Yeah, look, we've all come in with the same passion for food and our love for food. I think that's what's so mutually wonderful between all of us. So a lot of us have, bonded very, very well with other contestants, some more than others. And personally for me, Bess and I have definitely, we've created a lifelong friendship. So I think just in that moment, the heat of the moment when I was stressing, she must have seen me really panicking, and that's when she came over to have a chat with me and tell me, the ingredients for the mango mousse. So I'm, infinitely appreciative for her gesture, but I know that she would have done it for anybody else. That's just her nature. She's just kind, generous. She's incredibly supportive, and she's just a very sweet soul.
It was a really, really lovely moment to watch last night. It was just wonderful to watch there. I've got to ask you as well, the judges even made a comment of saying this at your elimination. They said that you're always representing your community. And, has that been a big thing for you to be able to be on television representing the Muslim community? But also, do you wish you'd seen more of this as you were growing up?
Look, definitely as I was growing up, I think it would have been really nice to see more of, whether it's cultural food or religious, influenced food out there, and also people representing those elements out there in mainstream media. But in saying that, you look at Food Safari, for example, like Maeva Mara, she really has, started that trend, and I really thank her for that. So I think the food media outlets that we see on TV, they're doing a great job of really showing off the cultural foods here in Australia. But me coming back onto the show and representing, whether it's my heritage or my religion, both of them I'm very equally proud of. I feel that although I'm a representative of both elements, at the end of the day, it all comes down to that dish and how you treat each other and how you respect each other. And that's what food does, hey? It just brings everybody from all different walks of life and races together and just celebrate over food.
Oh, I mean, very well said. We're so lucky and we're so grateful that you were able to come on the show today. What a message. Thank you very much. Before we let you go, though, a very important question. What's for your tea tonight?
Yeah, well, we're in Ramadan at the moment. Ramadan brings out the best of sweets. But for tea tonight, I think it's really cold here in Sydney, so I think I'm going to make, chicken veggie noodle soup of some sort, some garlic bread with it, and then break into some sweets later.
Beautiful. Thank goodness I'm not in Sydney, Amelia, because I might have been knocking on your door. That sounds delicious. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. All the best for the future, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
That was Amina there, the MasterChef eliminated contestant from last night. But never fear, the spatulas will keep stirring tonight at 7:30 on 10 and win for MasterChef Australia. Rob?
Thank you, Robbo. Well, it's time for our random live shot of the day.
You never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day.
And today we're taking you to Long Beach, California. The aquarium of the Pacific Shark Lagoon will get you up close and personal with some of the ocean's most mysterious and misunderstood predators. Watch sand tiger, zebra, backflip and white-tip sharks, as well as whiptail ray and a mangrove ray. It's a partly cloudy day over there with a low of 14 and a high of 22. Now for some feedback. And what have we got there? We've got Beck Holding saying, "Oh my God, I love Joel Creasy." Then there's this one that says, "You'll like this, Ben. Ben, you and I are on the same page. My favourite turtle was Leonardo." So forget all the commentary you've given us today. They're going with you on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Beck is very active today. She says, "Robbo, you are like me in terms of your thought process." We've got this one about Robbo, and I think this is a plant. Abby says, "Robbo is looking stunning today, as always." She's not sitting beside you by any chance, is she, Robbo?
I wouldn't have thought so. I don't know if we can get a shot here. No, I just pulling out the camera there to reveal the.
Oh, what a set!
Shut up! It's all smoke and mirrors here.
All right, Rob,
I've just
got two more bits of feedback. I need to include this one. Go Rob, and that was obviously about my rant against Tim Smith.
That's
and
a
we've
plant,
got
if
this
I've ever
one.
seen one.
Dan Andrews is awesome. I'm from WA and all the state, and what is appropriate for the state is not one size fits all. Thank you for all your lovely feedback. All right, it's time to have a look at what's happening in the world of movies with our good friend Joe Casamento. Let's try it again, Joe. Are you there? Oh no, there's still no audio.
But she looks so pretty.
She looks so pretty, doesn't she? We're going to try one more time. I can see a gorgeous man standing by, so we'll lose Joe for the moment. We'll lose Joe.
Okay.
Joe, we will try again. Bye-bye, Joe. You got to love
Showbiz
her.
is rough.
It is rough, and we'll try to get to Joe. We'll see what happens. She's actually got a lot of good information, but, that's live internet streaming, isn't it? But you know what? This kind of crap happened to me on Studio 10, so, it's not just an internet streaming show, is it, Robbo?
Yeah, but it's still happening for them too, and they've got 50 people working there, so you don't have to feel bad about yourself.
Hey, look, he is one of Australia's most favourite comedians, and he's still managing to keep busy during the lockdown. Joel Creasy will be hosting a special event on Saturday night called Eurovision 2020 Big Night In, and Joel is with us now, and hopefully with audio. Joel Creasy, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me? Is this working?
Barely.
Yeah, we
very,
can.
Very soft.
I can talk louder. I'm always happy to talk louder anytime.
Joel, tell us, is Eurovision a dream gig for you?
It is a dream gig. I mean, I get a trip to Europe normally every May, but this year it still is a dream gig because I get to work with Miff Warhurst, who genuinely is one of the most delightful people I've ever come across.
Well, she is fantastic. Are you a bit sad about what's going on this year?
Oh, absolutely devastated. And Eurovision was meant to be in Rotterdam, Netherlands. They've as you guys would know, started a lot of the great reality TV shows. So I think their production value was going to be through the roof. And now there's this amazing stage sitting empty. It's sad.
Yeah, that's very true. But tell me about this special you're launching.
Yeah, so Australia's been able to vote on the 40 songs that were going to be competing at Eurovision, and Miff and I are counting them down on Saturday evening at 7:30, and we'll also see Montaigne's staging that she was going to take to Rotterdam. She was our representative, and we had some really awesome staging for her. Australia's good at staging at Eurovision. Look at Kate last year on the pogo sticks. We know our stuff.
How much do you love Eurovision, though? This really is a bit of a dream gig, right?
Oh, it's such a dream gig. I grew up loving Eurovision. Before I got the gig, I used to host Eurovision parties at gay bars around Melbourne. And so I'm now doing the only thing possibly gayer and actually hosting it from Europe itself.
Joel, there's lots happening. What impact has COVID-19 had on you?
Well, I was meant to be on tour. I was on tour when it all got pulled. I was meant to be had 50 tour stops ahead of me. Eurovision, a bunch of other shows lined up. And you know how long it takes to put together a diary. A year's worth of work was wiped clean. So it's been testing, and also people. Like stand-up comics, I think not all but a lot famously suffer from tricky mental health, and in times like this, people call on stand-up comics to entertain them. But a lot of us are the ones going through it a bit.
So does that mean you've essentially lost a year's worth of income? How does that work?
Oh, pretty much. I've been able to postpone my tour to October, but who knows if I'll even be able to do it then. But yes, I have lost a fair whack of cash, but look, I'm just copping it on the chin because I guess there's people in far worse situations.
Look, yeah, you know what? It's easy to write that off, but you know, I've known you for a long time, and you always try to look on the bright side, and you're very funny. But you know, obviously, when you're away from the spotlight and you're going through stuff like this, it can be hard.
Yo, yeah, it's really tricky, and you know, people have been so kind, and you know, suggesting that why don't you go onto this website and upload your stand-up show, or why don't you do it on this site? I'm like, it's not quite the same. There's nothing will work like the thrill of a live audience. That's really addictive, and they've got to be there in front of you. Lounge rooms are great, but that's more for TV.
You know, the first time I saw you live, it was during the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, and you were at a German club, I think. And I remember having my chicken schnitzel with the gravy and everything before the show.
Yes.
You don't do venues like that anymore, do you? You've become much bigger. You've had a very sharp rise. And I'm not saying that's a bad venue. I had a great time.
I had a great time too, because I didn't pay for a single meal. And let me tell you, the big fancy theatres, they make you pay for your backstage catering. So I do miss that side. But I'm a real theatre nerd in that I actually love theatres. And when I get to them, I love hearing about the history of the theatre, which ghosts supposedly haunt that theatre. So getting to play them is a real thrill.
Now, there's been a little bit of controversy today, and I'll bring Ben in here because, Ben, there was a photo you wanted to ask Joel about.
Yeah, yesterday. Hey, Joel, how are you?
Hey, babe. I am wonderful. How are you?
Yeah.
Me and Kate Moss say hi. Oh, hang on. She's back.
Oh, you look more fabulous than she does in this anyway. Maybe it's the vision. Now, overnight, the Entertainment Weekly came out with a photo, which is an homage to what's happening with the LGBTI people in Hollywood. It's a fantastic image, and I think it's a great representation. However, it has come under fire with people saying there's a lack of diversity with maybe trans people. You know, should we just be grateful that we have this and this is a token and a step in the right direction? Or do you think that this is a bit of a fail and they should have included that?
Look, I don't know if it's a fail. I think it's a beautiful gesture, and it does show how far we've come. But perhaps I view it through the eyes of I'm turning 30 next month, and I have had a pretty decent time. It's not been amazing at times, but I've certainly not gone through what older generations of people in our community have been through. So I perhaps don't understand their gripes quite so much, because I think it's a pretty fab picture, to be honest. I would love to be in it though.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing for me. And now I will just say, while we've got you here, that as an LGBTI person myself, I am so proud of the work that you have been able to achieve over the last few years. Not only are you extremely funny and extremely talented, you've always got time for your friends, and I think you've done a lot for the community. So I'd like to say thanks for that.
Oh, thank you. Well, that is very... look, I'm not good at taking compliments and being sincere, so thank you very much. I'm blushing. I appreciate it. Thanks, babe.
I love it.
Now, Mr.
Robbo,
Creasy,
you going next?
Of course, from Showbiz. Yes, mate, yes. Where you're from Showbiz royalty, your dad was the solo man. Now, where you and I come from, solo has a different kind of meaning. Is this it?
This is his commercial. So he'll be... Now, this is not my dad. You'll be shocked to hear. Here he is. This is my dad. This is my dad with
the Big Mo.
Extra tangy lemon solo. It's light on fizz for when you're long on thirst. And when you've got a thirst for it, you've got to crack a solo. Crack a solo. Be a solo man.
I love that.
So we always
I'm so proud.
Yeah, we always knew that the solo had the bigger mouth to get more of it in your mouth. Are you similar to your dad? I didn't write that question.
Hang on, what?
No,
you did?
No, I did not write that. I
didn't
did
write
not write the question.
I just spat up my wine.
As I was saying that, I thought this is gross and filthy, and I just said it because I just read whatever's on the audio cue. I don't have an audio
Robbo,
cue.
you are
Who wrote that
such a
bloody
liar.
question? I didn't write that question.
I want to come on this show all the time because no other show would ever set me up with that much room for danger. In answer to your question, I really take after my dad. I don't know if that's a good thing. honestly, my dad, he pretends like he's all shy and embarrassed about that clip, but you mention it at a dinner party, he will have it out in seconds. And much like
And then he'll get the clip out.
Yes, he'll whip it out. And it's like me with my show reel.
Wait, hang on, what's going on with Robbo?
I didn't write
He's
the
left.
question. It was gross.
Robbo.
He wrote that
I love the
question.
question.
He's ridiculous. I thought he'd cracked something else and he had to go over there.
Really did crack us up.
Robbo, nobody
I've gotta
walks
go.
out on a cross with Joel Creasy. Nobody.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Creasy. I'm so sorry, Mr. Creasy.
Oh, well, I like Mr. Creasy, thank you. Terry, my father, and I accept your apology.
Yeah. Thanks, daddies.
So, Joel, you've got the Eurovision coming up on Saturday night, which is fantastic.
Yes.
Is there anything on the horizon after that, or are you just in lockdown waiting to see what happens?
I'm doing a few other things. We've been hosting a live stream for Cooper's Brewery. I've been doing that with Miff Warhurst. I've been doing some stuff for GQ, but yeah, it's really one day at a time at the moment, and crossing my fingers that people will still want quality camp entertainment when this is all over.
Is that how you describe yourself? Quality camp entertainment?
Quality, that is what I pitch to every network every goddamn day of the year.
But the networks do love you. I don't think there's been a network you haven't done something on, and audiences seem to like you. And really, I was saying before, your career did just seem to go like this, and you managed to maintain a level that a lot of other comedians don't.
Oh, thank you. I really had to bite, scratch, and claw my way here.
Whatever it takes.
But yeah. Whatever it takes. But no, things are. I'm thrilled, and things are going well. But I do think that Australia is in desperate need of a Graham Norton or a US style late night talk show. Whether I'm the person for the job, I would love it. But there needs to be a little bit more variety on Australian TV for sure.
Joel, I would love to see you on Blankety Blanks. I begged Channel 10 to do Blankety Blanks at 6 o'clock. I would love to see the return of that, and I think you would be fantastic in that role. So, mate, we can only hope that some network pulls their finger out and makes it happen. But in the meantime, Eurovision 2020, Big Night In, premieres Saturday at 7:30 on SBS. Joel, you are a legend. I love you so much. Thank you for being on the show.
Pleasure. I'm off to crack a solo.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
my
Joel.
God. I can't
I'm
believe we didn't
sorry.
ask him about the Logies.
And hang on, go on. Ask him about the Logies. What happened, Ben?
Rob and I talk about this every week. We talk about you pretty much every day, as we should. But Rob and I have been saying, when are you going to host the Logies? And why didn't you host the Logies from home this year? You don't need an audience. You don't need anyone there. You could have been handing out statues. It would have been hilarious.
Ben, they didn't ask him.
There'd probably be more life to it. No, I actually look. I'm one of those people that I get that the Logies is, I get the gag of it, but I also bloody love it. Every industry has an award show, or has an awards night. We just happen to televise ours because that is what we do. So if you don't like it, don't watch it. So I would love to host the Logies and roast that room with love.
That's what I would love about you hosting it. It would be funny, it would be cutting, but at the core of it, there would be love. Joel, thank you so much. We are voting for you to be the Logies host in 2021 when it returns. And if we can make it happen, if we can't make it happen, no one can make it happen. We are on your side, my friend. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks, guys. I so appreciate it.
I love that man. I can't tell you how much I love him. You know what? I'm going to do a take 3 now. And I'm going to try and cross. I'm going to say this again. It's time to talk movies with our dear friend Joe Casamento. Nice to see you for the 3rd time, Joe.
Tell me you can hear me now.
Yay! Yay! I'll drink to that.
I've even moved. I've only got water now. I've left my bar stool downstairs, but I've moved up to my office, which you're not supposed to see. But anyway.
Can I just tell you, I see Joe's office every week or occasionally when we do TV Black Box, and it never looks like that. You must have done a quick clean up while we were talking to Joel.
Thank God Joel speaks for a long time because whip around. Do you like it? I've even put a love heart up there.
All right.
I didn't recognise
Joe,
the place
Joe,
because I was
just-
so tiny.
Just quickly, what's that on your lap there? We can't see most of it. What is that?
This is Araminta.
Araminta.
All
What is
right,
Araminta?
Joe, we are on the clock. We've got about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You keep telling us
All
this
right,
was
quickly.
going to happen. Who is going to get their first box of popcorn before us?
Can you believe it? It's Japan. They're opening cinemas tomorrow. Well, 10 cinemas across the least coronavirus-ridden states or provinces are actually opening. We don't know what the movie is yet, but it will be interesting to see. And then 27 more are rolling out in the next few days. So they have to wear masks, but it will be interesting to see how it all goes. They've, of course, put social distancing measures in place.
And it seems the
And
all-powerful... Sorry, Robbo, I jumped on your question. I apologise.
That's all right. I was just following the rundown there. Look, sorry, Joe.
You don't always, Robbo.
The wonderful Reese Witherspoon is unstoppable in lockdown. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, Reese is just like a pocket dynamo, isn't she? She just gets better and better. She's just signed a 2-picture deal with Netflix, one based on the book The Cactus, which has been a bestseller and talks about a 45-year-old woman on a new path. And the other one is actually written by the script writer who wrote The Devil Wears Prada. So it's a rom-com as well. So both 2 rom-coms. She's been an absolute nugget of gold for Apple with The Breakfast Show. The morning show.
Yeah.
And she's also did Big Little Lies for HBO. So I imagine this is going to be a winner for Netflix and there's no stopping that girl.
She's also got, Joe, another series of the morning show coming out next year. She's already wrapped season 2 of that. So excited. She was so good in that with Jennifer Aniston. But I have a question for you because I think you're in the know on this. There's famous people and then there's really famous. Now, you have got a text exchange from 2 very famous people that went a little bit awkward. Can you please tell us about that?
Oh, hilarious. Because there is, you're right, there's levels, isn't there? There's certain levels of celebrities. But Tom Waterhouse, the dear Tom Waterhouse, who is, of course, the son of veteran race trainer Gay Waterhouse, revealed on social media yesterday an awkward exchange between him and Chris Hemsworth, Hollywood superstar Chris Hemsworth, back in 2011 when he first saw him on Thor. Now, Tom, being the polite, well-raised boy that he is, and I can testify to that, knowing his sister Kate, they're very polite, when he saw the film, thought, I'm going to text Chris, because the pair had actually starred together on Dancing with the Stars, as you can see on the screen here, back in 2006, when, can you believe it, Chris was on Home and Away.
Wow.
Before he was the big movie star he is. So he had his number. He thought, I'm going to text him. He did. He said, well done, congratulations, love seeing you in Thor. And he got a text straight away back and thought, wowzers, you know, in a high five. And the text said, who is this? This isn't me. Please delete my number. Yeah, basically. So very funny text exchange there. Maybe he'd moved on. But Chris has actually revealed that Dancing with the Stars almost ruined his Hollywood career when the big Marvel studio boss, can you believe, first put his name, you know, flooded it around the offices. The girls in the office Googled Chris Hemsworth and found that Dancing with the Stars video. And he was like, oh, my God, I can't have a dancing Thor. So thankfully, he ignored that video footage. I quite liked Chris dancing. Who doesn't want a dancing Thor? I don't know. Anything Chris does is pretty,
Joe,
I'm pretty happy with.
We are desperately running out of time. What have you been watching this week?
Okay. I'll be very quick. Yes, this one's called Hearts and Bones. It's an Aussie movie. I don't know if we probably haven't got time for the trailer.
We'll play the
stars
clip.
Hugo Weaving.
No, we don't.
We'll play the clip. It's an Aussie film. No, we don't. Look, it's quite dark and depressing, so it probably isn't a clip. Unless you're in the mood, this is not one to, I think it was something that needed to be immersed in the cinema, perhaps. Watching it while I'm homeschooling, I didn't get to sit and really live with it. It's a slow burn. It is very Aussie cinema. I was thrilled to see Sydney up on the screens there. I think so many of our local stories don't get told. It's about a war photographer who has PTSD. He comes across a cabbie from Sudan who's been in a war-torn massacre, and he wants to show the photos at the Art Gallery of New South Wales. The cabbie doesn't want him to. It's a lot of deep, anguished emotions. Quite slow. You have to really live with it. It's on Apple at the moment, or Telstra, or Fetch TV. If you've got a few hours to yourself and you can darken the room and really absorb yourself in some really deep, hearted, conflicting emotions, give it a go. But I'm going to give it three chop tops out of 5.
Joe, I've just been overruled by my wife, also known the boss, and she says we need to have a quick look at it. So we'll pull out at some point.
So you can
but we'll
give
have
it
a quick
context.
Look. Yeah.
Okay, take a look at this. You go, Wee.
Have you ever had a head trauma? Some, yeah. From IEDs, grenades, small artillery.
I got to say, Joe, I saw that earlier. The trailer looks amazing. We are out of time. Ticker TV is standing by. So we will have to go, Joe. We will see you next week, and we will see all of you next week for the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Bye-bye.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben.